Welcome back to Partnerships Unraveled, the podcast where we dive deep into the mysteries and the secrets of partnerships and the channel. My name is Michel, head of marketing at Chanext, and I'll be your host for today. Today, I'm sitting down with Evgenia Ostrovskaya, Director of Channel EMEA for Digital at Johnson Controls. Great to see you this morning. How are you?
Thank you, Michelle. I'm very good, and I'm quite happy to be here.
Likewise. Yeah, I'm looking forward to a fun conversation in a different industry than I'm actually used to talking to, and it's actually an industry that I hold very near to my heart. So I'm looking forward to this one. To get started, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and maybe a little bit about Johnson Controls?
So myself, I come with 25, 26 years of professional experience, and all my life I've been in the software development. A big chunk of my career were in physical security software industry. So I started when the software was actually integrated platform for video surveillance, access control, everything which is now called IoT. We didn't call it IoT back then, but it is IoT at the moment and definition of it. I started as the software developer, then I moved into more customer-facing roles, which I found more enjoyable. So then I led trainings departments, documentation department, and slowly moved into the dark side of marketing and sales, which I enjoyed even more. And last 15, 16 years, that's what I do, starting with the back office support, creating the processes, creating marketing and sales support, and then moving into sales roles and channel creation roles, which is kind of logical for me because all the software we've developed were always in B2B segment, moved to IoT world with Microsoft, and then ended up with Johnson Controls when OpenBlue became a platform which we felt like we can bring to partners, which makes it really exciting. And what I do now is bringing AI-powered SaaS platforms for smart and intelligent buildings.
Wow. It's kind of amazing. I look at myself and I have a very linear career path, right? I started out in marketing, I did marketing, then I did more marketing, then I did product marketing, and then I did marketing, right? It's it's kind of straightforward, even though I was always interested in kind of different domains, but I was able to kind of incorporate those into my job. But if I look at your trajectory, you've got seriously broad experience in the software space. You said software development QA. I think you said training as well, customer success before moving into sales and marketing in the channel. So I'm curious, what unique insight does that broad experience give you that kind of sets you apart from channel leaders that have more linear career paths?
Well, I guess understanding the full life cycle of the software development. So I understand what is sellable, what is developable, what is actually supportable, and these are all very different things. You need to scale when it comes to channel. You need to scale the process. You don't scale the mess. You need to scale the business. So first of all, you need to understand how software is built. When we're in IoT world, one way or another, it's all about integrations and how fast you can integrate new things. Then it's all about delivery. So it's how repeatable the process of delivery is. And we have a Kruger, the ways when we're in the valley of despair after the high peak of thinking that everything is rainbows. So we really need to get to the level of when you have a scalable, repeatable software before you can bring it to the channel. Otherwise, you will be scaling the mass of individual projects and individual tailored use cases, which is not really something which normally a channel is ready for. I sort of understand how to talk to the development teams. I understand how to talk to training teams because I've built the process once myself. And I guess that's the main thing. And empathy for friction. It's going to be a lot of friction, and you will never be ready for new development and channel partners. Not when you're in performance zone, but especially when you are in incubation startup zone of any new company or large company with a new project.
Yeah.
And I guess based on sort of understanding that it's about qualification. So it's not just the lead quality, it's really kind of delivery readiness of the partners. And it's such a difficult bridge to cross in the beginning. It's like, how do you define that your partner is going to take your brand and deliver on your behalf? And you want to have more of partners, but you need to pace yourself and understand that quality is and quality of qualification of the partners also is the major parameter for your success in the future. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that perspective for a very specific reason because obviously I can recognize that internally, if you know how certain processes work, you can make better assumptions. Let's say in your own field of work, you can circumvent problems, you know how to manage the bigger process. But I never thought of it that you can also do that for a partner. You could basically see the bottlenecks, but you could also see the opportunities more quickly because you understand more of that kind of end-to-end process. And I think that's a really interesting perspective.
Tell to my teams, especially when the sellers are coming from direct sales to partner sales, that you need to think about the partner as an extension and outsource of every process within the organization. So it's outsource of marketing, it's outsource of sales, it's outsource of support, it's outsource of delivery, it's outsource of training. So if you don't understand the process within the company, how it works within our company, you cannot make sure that your partner delivers because it's difficult enough to create this process in the newly incubated project. It is more difficult to then place this process within the business which you are not controlling and the business which is focusing on completely different value. Normally, just the fact that the partner wants your technology doesn't necessarily mean that the processes which you will try to implement will scale and grow naturally there. It's just sometimes, we probably will talk about it more, but one of my favorite things to discuss with my partners is how are you going to migrate from selling the box to selling the SaaS solution? How are your incentives are made for that? How are your sellers are prepared of that? And normally just having the head and the business leaders all excited about new technology, which is exactly what we want, we need to make sure that they cascade it down to the processes within the company. Again, I'll repeat myself on delivery because that's a larger part of the software installation. Renewals and recurring revenue, which is the major part of SaaS, are not done in the 12 months 12. It's done on the week 2, week 1. So this is how your partner is delivering. This is how the end customer starts to feel the value of the product or see the representations of our brand and our logo. This is one of the most important things. And that, of course, comes with understanding the internal process.
Yeah, no, I think you raise a great point that a lot of it is indeed about really understanding your own process, being able to map that towards the partner in an effective way to communicate that and leave as few gaps as possible so that they can build on the great product you've already made. It reminds me of I recently read a book about how the first iPhone was developed. And there was a little part in there that I thought was very funny that kind of reminds me of what we're talking about now is that the designers of the first iPhone, they made a design and they send it to the engineers and the engineers say, no way. Basically, all of this is impossible. So the engineers retool it and they build something that they think is possible. And then they send it to manufacturing and manufacturing says, no way, all of this is impossible, right? So
Exactly.
knowing more about the holistic value chain can reduce friction if you talk about that, like reduce friction at such a deep level. And also indeed when you're talking about transferring your knowledge to a partner, you're giving away something almost personal, right? So empowering them to do the right thing, having the right partner program, knowledge sharing, enablement in place is so incredibly important. So I think that's a really interesting way to look at things, which I haven't heard on the podcast before. So I'm really grateful for that.
Bringing value.
Yeah, exactly. Um, hey, we've got a couple things in common, and one of them is bouncing around between startup, scale up, enterprise, and back again. Now, I'm curious, what do you like about smaller orgs? What do you like about larger businesses? Just tell me your thoughts on that. I'm always curious.
Startups, of course, this is something I love. And actually, I was happy because wherever I was in my career, I ended up within the small startup project within the large organization. But maybe it's just my personality. I love to be responsible for a piece of the business, which I kind of treat as the startup or as the some separate business. This is how I operate personally.
You're a builder.
But startup to enterprise, of course, in startup you have a speed of adoption, you can make the decisions, you have a close proximity to your customers because you have like three of them, and you know everything they want. So everyone owns the outcomes. It's no kind of the mentality of I do this and you do this. Everyone does everything. But of course, you trade it off to limited coverage, limited budgets. You need to go on the shoestring, which I actually really like as well. But it's a limitation. The fewer enablement assets, you longer learning for new employees because you hire, especially when you hire someone. Who didn't have an experience before and that with a great potential, but it's a longer cycle where you can train on how things should be done. That's a reality. Where they're like in large enterprises, of course, you have the platform, you have the more leads which are already sort of available somewhere in the CRM in the corners. You have lists of potential partners or whoever you are looking for ability to invest in the right marketing assets or right platforms for enablement. But then they will trade it off for complexity of the stakeholders. Everyone is responsible for one separate thing, and you need to coordinate in that organization, procurement, longer cycles, slower development. But the sweet spot is really to bring the startup urgency and agility into building of the partner motion with the discipline of the large organization, with the processes of the large organization, but not over process it. And this is what I love about Johnson Controls right now. I am actually quite lucky to be in this company transformation into the leaner organization.
Hmm.
It's something which I'm quite impressed how our new leadership is doing. And I'm also, I feel that I'm quite happy and lucky to be in this spot when we are in this startup environment in the large organization. So we can do a lot quicker with some of the abilities of the a lot of people's organization.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right that that sweet spot is having that agility and urgency of a startup, but the support and kind of broad spectrum of a larger organization. I think I used to think like, hey, with a large corporate, you have bigger budgets. And then when I started working with bigger budget at larger corporates, I noticed that it takes so long to get things approved that having those bigger budgets barely even matters.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly the case. So sometimes even like being in this startup environment in a large organization, you need to go on the shoestring. So what can you do?
Yeah. But what I do really like about what you just said is the leadership understanding of this, almost like a paradigm shift. I think if you look at how technology is changing now, I think it's very dangerous for large organizations to kind of be scared of speed. And I think a lot of companies do want to do that. They kind of want to protect themselves. They don't know how to deal with this pace of change. But having companies that see their internal teams and foster that sense of urgency and speed, I think they will be the ones who succeed in the long run. And I hear it from some cybersecurity companies as well, really big cybersecurity companies that say, hey, we're going to take this new approach and we're going to run it like almost a tiger team within the organization that feels like a startup. I think that's a really smart hybrid approach of dealing with the pace of change in our current landscape while also maintaining the control and effectiveness of a large organization.
For that, I really like the book Zone to Win,
Mm.
quite descriptive on also the changing and like incubation projects and also the skills of people you need to hire in those incubation projects.
Yeah, I think I was very lucky to be allowed quite a bit of autonomy early on in my career so that I had to learn and fall down and stand up myself. And I think nowadays that's a bit of an underrated skill, letting people fail, providing
Yeah.
them the opportunity to fail, but also providing them the opportunity to learn from that failure. And that's something that I would definitely also say to the audience. Like if you have team members that are new but very eager, try to give them some breathing room to find out how things work themselves. It'll help you, it'll help them. It'll be a far more harmonious environment in the future if they feel like they have ownership of their own kind of their own work, so to speak.
I totally agree with that. Yes.
Cool. So I mentioned that we had one thing in common, which was the jumping around between startups, scale ups, and corporates. Another thing we have in common, and I don't think I even talked to you about this when we were prepping for this call, is building deep tech for heavy industries. So I used to work in the operational risk management space, basically ensuring that people on drilling rigs and chemical facilities worked safely. And I know how different the pace of innovation is in our environments when you compare it to more commoditized software, things that people use just in the normal world. So I do want to talk a little bit about IoT and your field of work, Internet of Things. You mentioned that you entered into this world when IoT wasn't even really a term yet, and smart buildings didn't even really exist. Now, a lot has changed over the last, let's say, a decade. So, how has the channel for that whole heavy industry engineering led space changed since you first walked into it?
That's an interesting question, and I think I will talk about several aspects. One is the product install is changing into the life cycle service management. So it's all recurring business. So it's a recurring value for customer, right? So we need to start to generate this value and understanding how the product is solving the problem, how we can install and deliver it in the right speed, how we bring the value on recurring way, and then how we keep customer happy and nurture through the whole life cycle. So that is how our product delivered, and this is the process which we need to align with our partner. So the partner needs to be aligned. I take this, I install it, I forget it, I go further into the complete the life cycle and mentality of making a customer happy on the daily basis, because this is what creates the stickiness, this is what creates the closeness, and this is what creates this recurring business. So this is one of the biggest, and that comes with the change of incentive. So SaaS is not sold like you sell the box. First of all, it's a lot of understanding of the customer problems, creating the solution, a little bit more in-depth knowledge, which many traditional sellers a little bit scared for, but we're already in the world when everything changing so quick with AI capabilities and stuff. So we just cannot afford being scared of technology anymore. It's just
Hmm.
not the trait which will make you successful today already, not even tomorrow. It's like there's no way you can keep being with this mentality. But the process needs to be adjusted rather quickly, and partners come with different sizes of the system integrator processes, and so that needs to be adjusted. So this is one. Another thing, we're coming from the siloed system into the open and interoperable platforms and ecosystem. So we need to be agile in how we operate with technology partners, how we support these open protocols and whatnot. And again, as we are creating the tools for that, like open APIs, cloud to cloud integration capabilities and so on. Partners also start to develop these capabilities and expertise in-house. And these are another layer of this value add partners when they can do the integrations quickly, when they can adjust, they can do the delivery. And in many cases, this is just a repeatable, easy process, but it needs to be done. And when it comes to our plate, then you go into the long line of additional developments and so on. So partners who have these capabilities are actually winning in comparison to others. So this is also, I think it's quite a change. And another thing is that cybersecurity and IoT, it's something which is not a problem of tomorrow. It's not a, it's just, it's already a gating function. So if you don't have cybersecurity expertise, knowledge, or functionality or product, it's not something you can win with, meaning that the expertise within the partners need to also incorporate cybersecurity expertise.
Yeah. It's fascinating to me because I'm listening to this and all the separate parts I can understand, right? But bringing them all together in your partner landscape, that sounds like a really, really complicated job, right? That you indeed have to have that understanding of the ecosystem. You need to build connections between software tools. You need to enable partners to understand that you're moving from selling a box to selling a life cycle, which means that they also have to understand how to build services around that. And then you have the cybersecurity aspect. Do you ever have time to sleep or
It's not an easy job. It's especially when you start to enter the market. It's not an easy job, especially when you don't have a lot of people. But it's incredibly interesting. I am such a fan of my work.
Yeah, no, that's phenomenal. Out of those three elements there, so the ecosystem, the switching to life cycle, and then indeed the cybersecurity part, what part do you focus most on? What do you find the most interesting, just personally?
Most interesting for prioritizing. When you are bringing into the channel partner ecosystem, you need to ruthlessly prioritize partners who are the closest to the customers and who bring you business. So where do I focus? I focus on where the money is. So that is what do I like the most. Actually, I like it all. It's such an interesting way to create this. Uh, I love to create brand friends of a brand. I like to see that at some point we're becoming more recognizable within the market. I love when we start to feel pull from the partners when they start to actually come back to us after a year and a half, and say like, okay, now I see that you're actually already in this market. So this is something which makes my day the best and makes me come out of the bed every morning. So it's actually seeing that the friends of a brand ecosystem is growing and we're creating a family of.
You know what I love about that? There's two things. The first one's just very simple. I recently recorded a podcast. It's coming out in a couple weeks with someone who basically had a similar answer to you. He said, I'm like a golden doodle. I want everyone to like me. And I thought that was such an interesting perspective because partnerships are relationships, right? So it makes sense that you want to have that friendly relationship. But the other angle that I find so interesting is the ecosystem part where friends of the brand, that concept is changing because maybe, and I don't know if this is the case for Johnson Controls, but in cybersecurity, you see this a lot where companies that used to be competitors are now forced to work together in these ecosystem plays. And suddenly you start to see completely new innovations arise. And instead of fighting against each other, you're fighting with each other and you're offering this connected solution, helping the customer, but also helping yourselves. And I think that's also like friends of the brand changes so much.
Yeah, yeah, agree.
That's super cool. Um, I have a question to you that I always have to ask. And we need to talk just a little bit about AI, if that's okay with you. And I've covered every angle of AI on this podcast, but the one I want to touch on now is how you actually personally or with your teams use AI at Johnson Controls. So, how is AI shaping or changing your day to day when it comes to partner engagement, but also internal work communications, things like that?
Well, I think all of us already kind of, I don't know about, I didn't find people who are not using AI right now. So, and of course, it's in the first place, it's about speed of everything. It's like speed of creating personalization to reach out to partners without being spammy.
Hmm.
When it's about the lead generation and so on. Then when it comes to enablement, it's a faster enablement, faster answers, faster. There's a system right now who are making onboarding from 6 months to 2 months, and so there's this platforms, AI tools, which are allowing to just speed up the enablement. And for me, enablement is the major thing. I need the partners to be fully equipped, fully enabled, ready, go, let's get to pipeline. It's all about pipeline. And then how do you monitor the pipeline? How do you have this red flags on the performing versus not performing partners? Like How do you see it? Again, we need to do more with less. So we have very little people, and we need to do all of these things, orchestrating the partners, making sure that they remember about their trainings, making sure that they remember about registering their leads, all of this sales processes. It's again optimizing every process in the company and then transforming it into the process which you're embedding within the partner organization and interaction between the two. So it's all about streamlining, cleaner and leaner process with that. So that's for sure the main ones. And signals of readiness partner to become a partner on the market, signals of partner not being performing, for what reason. It's analyzing all of the social media, analyzing LinkedIn, getting all of the signals from, okay, this partner is actually looking towards the competition, and this time you need to catch it and understand how to bring them back home. So that's I guess main three things. It's lead generation, enablement, onboarding, and the life cycle of the partner from the process perspective. And during this life cycle, getting faster signals on where we on this on which on each stage.
Yeah, I think that that last part is really almost a golden egg for any software developer that can build basically partner intent mapping in a very smart way for vendors to really understand how their partner landscape is performing, where there's potential churn risk, where there's complexity, where enablement needs to be accelerated, decelerated, whatever. I think that's free tip for anybody listening who wants to build that. Call me, I'll help. But no, I think that's a really pragmatic perspective. And I think that's important as well, right? Because what I love to see is that we're kind of over that hump of not really understanding how to implement AI effectively in these spaces, and now we're starting to learn and starting to dare to innovate. And I really see a lot of interesting stuff popping up, but I also see people taking processes that used to be really time consuming and tedious, and now building those in a way that is actually functional and leads to better results at the end. And I'm really happy to see that. I think we could talk about this for hours, but unfortunately, I don't think we both have the time because, as you said, you have a pretty intricate job to do from a day to day. So I want to end with two things. First of all, we always ask our guests to nominate the next guest on the podcast. Do you have anyone in mind?
Well, I think that even our organization is quite interesting in the way we're building partnerships. So I'll nominate my colleague, US colleague, Link. So
Mhm.
you'll get his full name for the next podcast, and hopefully he will agree.
Fantastic. No, I'm looking forward to this. The last thing I want to ask you is to wrap this up, do you have any final insights, tips, or tricks, or thoughts that you'd like to share with the audience?
The main one always comes to like, how do you make a partner happy and make money? So companies exist because they solve certain problems of the customers with the right speed and the right quality and the better than others. Channel partner teams exist because they solve it for the end customers using the partner ecosystem, making sure that partners receive the right incentive. So we as the channel partners are better than other channel teams in other competition. We can make our partners more equipped with technology, which will make them win. We will make them more business, more money, and customers are happy by solving their problem. And our partners are being the business who are creating more value for their end customers. So if you think in this way and you just don't think about your technology for the sake of technology, but you think for your technology for use cases for your end customers and use cases for the business of your partners, this is where success lies. And then when you see bottlenecks, you just kind of start understanding how to overcome them or how to compensate them. Sometimes you just cannot overcome certain things within the company, within the certain ways on the large or small organization. You cannot solve anything. So how do you compensate it with other benefits? It's all about making sure that the balance of these benefits is better than your competition and the better with your partner sales competition in other company. That's a sort of the main concept.
I think that that's fantastic advice. Thank you so much. I want to thank you in general for sharing your thoughts and taking the time to speak with me, and for you, dear listeners. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you so much, Eve.
Thank you for having me. Have a great day.
You too.